Okay, here we go. Hope the sound isn't too bad. I got a rushing river behind me. Hope everyone has a great Resurrection Day and fellowship with the Spirit of God. So, the topic of today, we've been following the various haplogroups, and some people may already know that I was able to follow 4 haplogroup lineages to America through the Mediterranean to Central America, and from Central America spreading north and south. In fact, the Q haplogroup arrives in the Caribbean, arrives first in the Caribbean, then proceeds on to Central America, and then spreads out north and south from Central America. This is a very important discovery, and I'm surprised nobody picked up on it yet. And I guess I'm the only one that knows about it or has been talking about it, because no paper has been written about it. You ask Grok, he doesn't know anything about it. AI doesn't know anything about it because nobody wrote about it. Except for me. I've been having videos on it. So you got the Q haplogroup, and we've assigned the Q haplogroups to the Medes. When the Medes went up against the Lydians, they fought against the king of Lydia. Were not able to defeat the Lydians, which is a Semitic tribe or a Semitic civilization. And then they continued on. After making a truce with the Lydians, they continued on through the Mediterranean to Central America, the Caribbean, Central America, and spreading north and south from there. That's the Q haplogroup, which is the majority of the Native American population. So then there's an even, older lineage, supposed said older lineage, which is the D and the C Eurasian lineages that made the same crossing, following the same route through the Mediterranean to Central America. The only difference is that the mitochondrial lineage jumps around a little bit more, it just hops around quite a bit more. So you have the C and the D Eurasian lineage that did the exact same thing, and we know that the Medes had in their population the A haplogroup. So the A haplogroup also made that same migration. These are 4 haplogroup lineages that made the exact same migration from Central Asia through the Mediterranean, off the coast of Africa, to the Caribbean, to Central America, spreading north and south from there. That's 4 separate lineages. Now, I wanted to see if the C haplogroup did the same thing, although the only problem is there's not enough data to verify that route. There was like 1 C haplogroup in Central America or thereabouts. Maybe it was Northern South America, but there's not enough data to verify the C haplogroup lineage making the same migration, even though I'm very sure they made the same migration, because if you look at the Olmecs, they have the Polynesian look, which is from the descendants of Nimrod, which have the same common ancestor. The only thing, the Polynesians have the C2 lineage, and the American lineage of the descendants of Nimrod is C3. Now, they have assumed that they crossed Beringia, but there's no evidence of them going that far north. And the same thing with the B haplogroup, the mitochondrial B. It didn't go, it didn't, there's no evidence of it going through Beringia either. but it did apparently cross the Pacific Ocean to Central America. But no other lineage that I know of made it across the Pacific, that is the Y chromosome lineage. But the mitochondrial B lineage is all through the Polynesia and the Pacific Islands and everything, and that lineage appears to have made a crossing to South America. Now, that would be easy to confirm. Just check the lineage haplogroups and the markers and everything. It would be easy to confirm. So some of the other updates would be the Arameans I've designated as F2. They have their own haplogroup number. And the Lydians would be F1 and F undefined, or F and F undefined. And F1 is the Lydians, and the F2 is the Arameans, because the F2 goes all the way to China. That's the lineage that goes all the way to China, is the F2. So that would be the Arameans, because that's what the Arameans controlled the trade routes all the way to China. So that's a dead ringer, as you might say, that identifies the Arameans as F2, differentiating them from the Lydians, which is F1, because they're two totally separate lineages. They should have different letter designations. That's how separate they are from each other. They're totally spread apart and separate from each other if you look at the Simmons Genome Project. So that's one of the most recent discoveries or changes that I've made. Also, the other change that I did make was I switched around. I had the first the Arphaxad lineage, then the Airman Lud, then the Assyrian, and then the Elamites. But I'm not so sure if that's the case, so I just went back with, at least for the time being, I went back with Arphaxad being the firstborn, then Elam, then Asshur, which is of the Syrians, and then Aram of the Arameans, and Lud, which I'm not sure which one is older, but otherwise, that's a good update that we have on this Easter weekend, or Resurrection Sunday weekend. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. I'm enjoying the time here by the little creek here. It's flowing pretty strong. Hopefully it's not too loud. I don't know. I don't hear it. I don't see anybody saying it's too loud or too noisy. Anyway, see, other than that, it's pretty much the same thing, except that the only Native Americans that did cross the Beringia, the Bering Strait, would be the Inuit. The Inuits, they are the Q haplogroup too, and they also have the A mitochondrial DNA in their lineages as well, because they're the Q haplogroup, which is the Medes. So they also have the A in their population, because everywhere the descendants of the Medes went, the A mitochondrial lineage, which is a Semitic lineage, follows them wherever they go, because Madai asked to marry one of the daughters of Shem. That's in a written historical account. It's not in the Bible, but it is a historical account from an ancient source saying that Madai asked to marry one of the daughters of Shem. So everywhere the Q lineage of Madai goes, the A mitochondrial lineage will follow. And of course, one of my other videos, I checked to see what are the odds of all these things being so perfect and fitting so perfectly. And Grok said the odds of that happening is astronomical, unless it's actually the case, unless it's the actual lineages that are correct. The designated haplogroups for each ancient civilization, which there's 16 of them. And of course, Japheth has 7 sons, So so he has 7Y haplogroups under the K designation. So the K, which is an M9 SNP marker, all of his descendants are M9, and the K is the lineage by itself as well, which is Tubal. The M and the S branch off from K, and all the other ones, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, and T, they're all lineages from Japheth, except the M and the S branch off from K, which is Tubal, because the K, the only Asian lineage or Eurasian lineage in the South Pacific, in the location of Papua New Guinea where the M and the S are, is the K. That's the only Eurasian lineage that's in the area. So, and plus the fact that the M and the S, according to the Simmons Genome Project, they branch right off of K anyway. So, and it is a lineage to itself. The other one is that the P lineage is also a lineage to itself. It's not PQ or the ancestor of Q and R. It's a lineage all on its own, all to itself. So when I saw that the P was actually a population in East Asia, also in Eastern Europe, a population, I designated as Meshech, and Grok said right away, yeah, that's Mushki or Meshech, or that's correct. So that fits in very well, fits in good, because before I had just the O as being Magog, but now it's the N and the O is Magog, which is the absolute largest population on the face of the earth, is the N and the O, which is Magog. So, but they split a long time back. The N from the O split way back in the beginning, and the N's are all up in the north, and the O's spread out to the east, and they spread all the way into Japan, where the tribe of Sinim was, the D haplogroup, and the O pushed the D haplogroup up north, and kind of like in the woods or something, and they became isolated from the rest of the people in Japan that are O. But it was originally the land of Sinim, which is the land of Sinai. The Sinites descended from Sin. His name is Sin. And they have the D haplogroup. Of course, they're in the Andaman Islands. They went to China first, then they went to Japan. And according to the haplogroup migration, they went to Japan first, then they went to Tibet, and on to the Altai Mountains, where the Denisovan finger bone was found. So it's either the Denisovans are either a mixture of Eurasian and the Sinite tribe, and or also the descendants of Nimrod, which is C in the area. So the C and the D are both in the area. They're both Hamitic, but the C is a separate lineage from the D, because the C has a CF marker that Nimrod's descendants share with the rest of the world, but it's a CF marker. XDE means the E, the D and the E don't have the CF marker. So they're two separate Hamitic lineages. One has the CF marker, which is the C, and the D does not have that marker, does not share that marker with the rest of the world, since it's branches off from E2, which would be Mitzrayim. So because the Sinites are a Canaanite tribe, not Mitzrayim, Canaanite tribe. So those are the updates pretty much. And I hope everybody has a happy weekend. And if I can think of anything else, I don't know. But the Native Americans, absolutely, the majority of them crossed through the Mediterranean, off the coast of Africa, to the Caribbean islands, and they landed in Central America. That is the absolute evidence from following 4 haplogroup lineages, following the Q, Y chromosome, that's the path it takes. The A mitochondrial takes the same route. The C mitochondrial takes the same route, and the D mitochondrial takes the same route. But the only thing is the C and the D mitochondrial lineages took that route much sooner than when the Medes crossed to Central America. So that's my suspicion, is that the C haplogroup is the one that got there first, because the Olmecs in Central America are the oldest civilization in Central America, or the Olmecs. And since they look Polynesian, they were probably the ones with the C3 haplogroup, while the Polynesians have the C2 haplogroup. But they both have a common ancestor, Nimrod, from the house of Nimrod, with many, many descendants. And that's how they came to have the same similar appearance. But it's the fact that the C and the D mitochondrial lineages got to Central America first, even before the Q and the A, means that they didn't travel by themselves. They probably arrived in Central America, there where the Olmecs were, with a C haplogroup first, because there's not enough data for me to confirm that the C took that same route, but I'm pretty sure once the data comes in that it'll show the C making that same crossing. Just that I think people are a little hesitant to put that data out there, because it'll just totally destroy the favorite crossing, which is by way of the Bering Strait, Beringia. That's their favorite crossing. They said they waited till the snow melted and they walked through, and then the snow closed back up or something like that. But the only lineage that did make the Bering Strait crossing is the Inuits, following, hunting whales and seals. And that's a separate Q haplogroup lineage that crossed the Bering Strait into North America. But they, of course, their lineage stays up in North America. So that's about it. I hope everybody's having a great weekend. God bless everybody. It's starting to rain here a little bit again. So everybody take care. God bless.